midnight, the Wednesday night edition. It's the day after the, wow, amazing, the 73rd anniversary of the invasion of Europe, otherwise known as D-Day. And the day before, the anniversary of the attempted sinking of the USS Liberty, an intelligence gathering ship, by Israeli air and naval forces. And even now, there's an attempt to keep it covered up. There's a lot of stuff going on, but it's all just in furtherance of shrouding the truth. There's a huge agenda here. I'm not going to get into this particular part of it tonight. I'm going to get into it tomorrow night. But I'll give you a hint. Pretty strong case being made for white genocide. Not white privilege, white genocide. When you think about it, how many black women have you heard being raped by Muslims? How about zero? How many black women have you heard being raped by just white men? Zero. According to every statistic that I have looked up, and there's been a bunch of them, the number is zero. Who's being targeted for rape in Western Europe? Who were the most desired ones to be made slaves during the original jihad days? Well, the answer is white women. Black slavery was picking cotton. White slavery, that's different, and especially the young ones. So we're going to get into this white genocide thing, and then let the accusations of bigotry and racism and white supremacy and everything else, just let it roll, because it's going to roll off my back just like water rolls off a duck's back, and I'm not a duck. Okay? So get ready for that. It's going to be tomorrow night. In the meantime, if you want to look up the name, this is not her real name. In fact, we don't even know if it's actually a she. But the name is Dr. Lasha Darkmoon. I know, but again, it's not. Shouldn't say anything about that because we're going to speak with Robert Morningstar. And that I asked him, I said, Robert, it's none of my business, I'm just nosy. But is that your real name? And he said, yeah, it started off as a European name, but it was combined, and now it is, in fact, my real name, and it's, apparently he's got Native American blood running through his veins, too, so along with European, so he decided to go with Morningstar. That's his real name. And he's got Morningstar News.nyc. We're going to talk to him here in a little bit. And we're also going to talk with David Morgan. He's a real sharp cat in the world of finance, all right? And I'll just tell you this now. Silver-investor.com. He's got Silver Speculator. He's got Riches in Resources. But his main website is themorganreport.com. So check him out. After you hear his speeches, if you're interested, do it. Now, there's a whole bunch of stuff up here on this net. This is from Canada Free Press from a couple of days ago, June 5. That would be Monday, by Dave Merrick. CanadaFreePress.com. It's another trophy week for the planet Earth, he writes. Here in the United States, a 56-year-old has-been comedian joined a burgeoning crowd of other has-been celebrities in garnering press on the beat-to-death I Hate Trump train. It seems that when she discovered her beheading stunt backfired into her wallet, she got real sorry. For a moment, the tears fell like rain. Then she obviously hooked up with a lawyer who encouraged her to push even harder instead of apologizing. So, in my way of thinking, she's now 10 times the embarrassment that she was before she shot herself in the foot in the first place. And she hates our president, and mostly his 11-year-old son. That's weird. But her vain-glorious mob of fans are already solidly enlisted Trump haters. Now, our president wisely backed out of the politically correct, ineffective, yet expensive Paris Climate Accord. And then he stated he was not against improving the environment and was willing to negotiate a better agreement. Nevertheless, everybody in the world, starting again in our own America, now hates Trump even more. Again, it's simply another opportunity to hate Trump. I wonder how many of the people protesting that exit even knew what that worthless agreement said and how it would actually deeply cost America, or cared that President Trump wanted a better version. Oh, I like him. Years ago, I was sucked into a conversation with a friendly convenience store clerk who adamantly declared that the debate is settled, climate change is a fact. I instantly realized that he was parroting precisely what our then president had told him just a few nights previously in the 2014 State of the Union address. I asked him how it had been settled and by whom. He was speechless. Obama had not provided him with the answer for that, and he never inquired. Another one of the cattle had spoken. People, lazy people, don't realize that there is excellent science richly available that completely challenges the political tool and ruse of global warming. But the truth is always strategically kept underfunded. So you have to use what's left of an honest search engine to look into that. If you are at all curious, and you should be, I strongly suggest that you start by visiting a faithfully informative page on Facebook entitled Cornwall Alliance for the Stewardship of Creation. Wow, Cornwall Alliance for the Stewardship of Creation. It's a great source of scientific truth that is not at all popular in today's politically correct propaganda machine. In the meantime, lavishly engineered infomercials for rubber-stamped non-science presentations of global warming come into your home on the cable that tells us how to think. As I've said before, I stopped watching television in 1987, and I have a brain left in my head to prove it. Am I related to this guy, Dave Merrick? I liked him, a minute ago, but now I'm beginning to love him. Nothing gay, okay? It's not a man crush. I'm just saying he's a brilliant writer. Spastic brain trusts like Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters. But we generally don't use our brains anymore. Everything today runs our emotions. So the devil, who is out to destroy us, can bypass our atrophying intellect and go straight to our hearts. As a result of that, we have generally forfeited all of our dignity and fortitude, and we hate Donald Trump for daring to try to reawaken those vital qualities in what is left of free America. Because we have, for the past 40 years, effectively been osculating the derrieres of Islamic terrorists. We now also have a cancerous problem with a religion that hides its hatred in plain sight in a dark book that no one wants to research, the Caravan. And because everyone is so generally ignorant of the real threat of jihading Muslims, spastic brain trusts like Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters and lots of other profiteering liberals can actually get away with comparing today's immigrants, spewing from a strategically ruptured Islamic world, with the real dream seekers who came to America a century ago. Well, if America insists upon being so stupid as to actually welcome people who have, from birth, been trained to hate America, I will just as avidly protest those immigrants coming here. And I will do that by using the same logic one illustrious Democratic United States representative once used, seriously, in protesting putting too many Marines on the island of Guam. You remember that one? If you put too many Marines on the island of Guam, it'll just flip over. Remember the dumbass who said that? So be now informed. I am here warning you, if we let all these Muslim immigrants into America, the North American continent is going to capsize. Hear me. I have spoken. The debate is closed. But America has spent especially the last 8 years officially apologizing to the world for having the gall to be the mightiest and most respected nation ever to sit on planet Earth. Our fast-talking and forced-tongued first black president, or half-black, put us on a crash course in absolutely every department. And now we have a man in office who is actually doing everything he guaranteed he would to thoroughly frustrated, hard-working Americans who voted for his promised change. And because the liberal media sees that it's losing its control over the cattle parked in front of millions of TV screens daily, they're coming after Donald Trump, who is waking too many people up and presenting awards to anyone who will join them in that effort. And what the dumb snowflakes and silver ponytails don't realize is that the muzzle and shackles that Obama and Hillary want to put on constitutional America will also fit the sheeple by helping them in their subversive and anarchistic takeover. London is being torn to shreds by all the bratty Islamic terrorists that the city's Muslim mayor claims naturally accompany big city life. Meanwhile, the mayor of New York and other politically correct voices around our nation are welcoming with open arms all the problems that common sense alone should have sufficiently warned us against. But the bombings, the slashings, and vehicle attacks are going to continue around the world and here in our own United States because the cowardly bombers know that what is left of free world, the free world, is rapidly being eviscerated. And any semblance of guts and fortitude or integrity is being despised and spit on by spineless people in the Western world who believe they are thereby striking a bargain for peace with all the hooded, rabid dogs who know the West is thoroughly intimidated and increasingly obedient. They have us right where they want us. So let's all join the comedian who isn't funny and all the other losers who hate Donald Trump. I mean, after all, Trump should be thoroughly castigated for giving any grief to the threatening tyrants who want to fire nuclear missiles at us, right? How dare he? And let us harmonize in our politically correct criticism of his misogynistic, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, and every other phobic, racist, horrible man. Even though we can't point to one shred of evidence to support any of those accusations, and let us all find our safe spaces, respectively, and put our heads in the sand, and hope that all of our problems will simply magically and wondrously disappear. Let's face it, Donald Trump is embarrassing all of America, all of the world, for behaving like another Ronald Reagan. Please, all you globalists out there, forgive us for not kneeling before you in submission and defeat. I am telling you, I am simply shocked at the stuff conservative journalists are made to comment upon these days. I mean, the whole world has gone hyper-stupid at light speed, and conservative voices like mine have to waste hours pointing out stuff that is no-brainer obvious. Tucker Carlson, Paul Joseph Watson, Ben Shapiro, and so on shouldn't have to waste so much time educating people about issues they won't even bother to explore for themselves. It's a losing battle. It's kind of like playing chess with a mannequin sitting across the table from you. First you make your move, and then you spin the board and make a move for your opponent. And then you spin it again to keep the game going. And the whole time the guy sitting across from you is just smiling endlessly. Nevertheless, we write the same things over and over again, hoping to effect some positive change. Wake up. So comparatively few seem to be listening, let alone responding. All right, I still like him. I'm not sure I love him. Dave, you're being a little bit pessimistic here. And I really think I like Paul Watson, too. I like Paul Joseph Watson. I think he might be a little more effective if he quit dropping the F and C bombs, but that's just me. All right, one more from Canada Free Press. I'll be quick about it. Open letter to the president. Yes, you are probably being spied on. It's from June 2nd. Anatomy of the Deep State's cloak to take down the president. This is by Tom Bauerle, Bauerle. And my sources tell me he's the real thing. So, check it out. Cloaking, Mr. President. That's how those working 24/7 to bring you down are doing it, in my experienced opinion. Cloaking is a little-known surveillance technology that allows someone to be a stone's throw away from you without your ever being able to see them or even be aware of them. I know because it happened to me, and I'm risking my job and perhaps even my life by giving you this heads up. They smeared me as crazy when I discovered I was being spied on right from my own backyard, neighborhood, my girlfriend's house, and possibly everywhere. They smear you as unstable and unfit for office by saying you were wiretapped. It all boils down to the same thing in the end. With surveillance as backup, they can now shoehorn you into any narrative they want to destroy your credibility. The president's a Russian colluder. Buffalo radio man Tom Bauerle's bat stuff crazy. We have spoken via telephone a few times before your election to the presidency, and I was honored that you invited me backstage to attend your upcoming rally in Buffalo, New York. And I was humbled that when you learned I wasn't there, you actually asked Secret Service agents to track me down in Buffalo so I could hang out with you. Unfortunately, I had obligations in Port Chester, so I was unable to attend the Buffalo rally. But anyway, let me get to the meat. Mr. President, I had to bite my tongue when you were ridiculed for your tweet about being wiretapped and put under surveillance by the previous administration. Okay, that's Tom Bowerly. And the fact is, he was put under surveillance by the previous administration. And let's not forget yesterday's story, Huma Abedin's brother and sister's house has been raided by FBI. Judicial Watch is suing state and Treasury departments for records on the $400 million cash payment to Iran, which happened just about the time those 5 hostages were released. Right? Let's see. Would Congress authorize bankruptcy for Illinois and other states? Yeah, inevitably. This is a Wire Points original, right? Schopenhauer. All truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident. By Mark Glennon. For Illinois or another state to formally go bankrupt, the United States Congress would have to pass legislation. Would they? I think so. In fact, bipartisan support is reasonably foreseeable, and ultimately that legislation is unavoidable, which will trump any debate. The legal question whether Congress could extend bankruptcy to states was addressed in my earlier article, so I won't rehash that here except to say I think David Skeel is right. He's a law professor at the University of Pennsylvania who also serves on Puerto Rico's oversight board in its bankruptcy-like proceeding authorized by Congress under PROMESA, P-R-O-M-E-S-A. He wrote firmly that the constitutionality of bankruptcy for states is beyond serious dispute. In the meantime, Puerto Rico is going to the polls again. They want statehood because they're bankrupt and people are fleeing that country. So, watch this space for more. Sears is closing another 66 stores. Joe's Crab Shack files for bankruptcy. It's going to be like Crab Grab. Trying to sell crab legs in Inglewood. Didn't work out very well. Saudi Arabia used U.S. veterans to lobby against a 9/11 bill by Michael Krieger. Oh, this is not good. In September, the Kingdom helped sponsor opulent galas for Washington's business elite at the Ritz-Carlton and the Andrew Mellon Auditorium. The events were attended by King Salman, along with the chief executives of General Electric and Lockheed Martin, the chairman of Marriott International, and prominent think tank officials. Elements of the charm offensive include the launch of a pro-Saudi Arabia media portal operated by high-profile Republican campaign consultants, a special English-language website devoted to putting a positive spin on the latest developments in the Yemen war, glitzy dinners with American political and business elites, and a nonstop push to sway reporters and policymakers. This has been accompanied by a spending spree on American lobbyists with ties to Washington establishment. Saudi Arabian embassy, as we've reported, now retains the brother of Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, the leader of one of the largest Republican super PACs in the country, and a law firm with deep ties to the Obama administration. One of Jeb Bush's top fundraiser, Ignacio Sanchez, is also lobbying for the Saudi kingdom. This is from LibertyBlitzkrieg.com by Michael Krieger. GOP's Dodd-Frank replacement bill heads to the House floor. Maybe we'll wind up with Glass-Steagall. And finally, all right, next to finally, oh, I'm so surprised. I'm just shocked. South Africa unexpectedly plunges into recession. More on that later. The reason the country was taken down because it has every strategic mineral you could possibly want. Gold, diamonds, a really highly educated state, and quite frankly, rugged men, beautiful women, and nuclear weapons. Or they did. But they got those weapons out there before the current crew came in. It's unbelievable, but there's going to be more on that. Watch and see. Just watch and see. From Breitbart, Resistance, Michael Moore launches whistleblower website. Trumpy leaks. You sack of pig vomit. Let's see what else. He is a sack of pig vomit. Would somebody who knows Michael Moore tell him I call him a sack of pig vomit? Maybe he'll sue me. And then, admissions and denials. and discovery, all kinds of stuff. It'll be fun. Let's see. Listen, this would not be complete without this. You got to have a laugh, right? This is from Breitbart, and this is the title. 6 insane statements that didn't stop reality winner, from getting a top-secret clearance by Ian Mason. One of the shocking revelations of the developing reality winner leak scandal is that the eccentrically named 25-year-old was able to secure a top-secret clearance as part of her contracting job. Now, Winner, a government contractor, lately with Pluribus International, stands accused of leaking a classified NSA report on Russian hackers during the 2016 elections to left-wing news site The Intercept. And it is left-wing. As the government has grown ever more dependent on the security clearance system to maintain confidentiality, the number of Americans holding clearances has skyrocketed. A 2013 report from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence found 4.9 million security clearances, 1.4 million of them top secret. In Ms. Winner's case, being the arch-millennial her extensive social media presence suggests she posted many of her views and impulses for the world to see. Several red flags stick out in hindsight as to her possible unsuitability for access to the nation's sensitive intelligence and defense information. How about this? Number 1, being white is terrorism. Kanye West, at Kanye West, from Sarah Winters, you should make a shirt that says, being white is terrorism. On a Twitter account that appears to belong to the same reality winner who was arrested Saturday, Sarah Winters displays casual anti-white attitudes, telling rapper Kanye West he should make this shirt. Now, here's another one. When we deploy All Lives Matter as to correct an intervention specifically created to address anti-blackness, we lose the ways in which the state apparatus has built a program of genocide and repression mostly on the backs of black people, beginning with the theft of millions of people for free labor, and then adapted it to control, murder, and profit off of other communities of color and immigrant communities. We perpetuate a level of white supremacist domination by reproducing a tired trope that we are all the same, rather than acknowledging that non-black oppressed people in this country are both impacted by racism and domination and simultaneously benefit from anti-black racism. Wow. Here's another one. Larger hands. Well, people suck. Hashtag election night. Winner made no attempt to hide her utter contempt for President Donald Trump and his followers, retweeting common hashtag resist tropes like comments on the president's hands and retweeting, for example, half a dozen examples of the following image, which is, I don't know, a little child in a pink dress with hashtag larger hands. Number 3, defeat ISIS with Starbucks. Number 4, Donald Trump burns crosses. Number 5, apathy is class warfare. Number 6, minorities are the victims of pollution. Well, I really don't wish prison upon any but the very few. Jihadis and dangerous morons. But then again, we don't have a dangerous moron department there within the Department of Justice, so it's too bad for some that you can't be put in the tank for being just an abject idiot. But then again, I'm wondering which is worse, leave them at large or lock them up. Lama Shadwick posted this one, another one from Breitbart. I just got a lot of stuff today. Leading a 16-state coalition, the Texas Attorney General filed a brief with the U.S. Supreme Court on Monday supporting President Donald Trump's temporary travel ban. Attorneys general from 14 other states and the governor of Mississippi joined to urge the nation's highest court to reinstate the executive order. So we'll just see. Okay, why don't we talk a little bit about finance and stuff like that? Finance is always fun, don't you find? David Morgan is on deck. David, how are you?
John, I'm well, thank you.
What's all this about an alert that went out to your premium members?
Well, John, as you know, I've been on the internet doing, resource sector more than silver, although silver is my favorite metal, for quite some time. And we started a video service for a membership a long time ago, and this enables us to have people look over my shoulder, so to speak. They literally look as I'm talking on a chart or a stock or whatever I'm interested in, and I let them know what's happening, and I specifically give my trades to those people so they can follow along if they wish to do so. Recently, a couple of weeks ago, or about the second week of May, I put out an alert, and I don't use the word alert too often, but I saw what I think is a sea change in the market, which means a fundamental shift between the stock market and the gold market. So the trade would be long gold, short stocks for a long-term trade, meaning that it would go weeks or hopefully months or perhaps even years. And this is possibly true. We got some confirmation we talk about in a moment. But I saw several factors, key indicators that I use that confirmed that the bottom was in. It was about 16.20 on silver, and I forget the exact price on gold. But I pulled the trigger when silver was pushing through 16.50. We're up about $1 more than that right now. And gold was about 12.30, 40 in that range, and we're right at sort of a tipping point in gold right now. So the gold confirmation that should take place here in the next few trading days will confirm that it could be a big shift. In other words, this is the bottom and when things change. I also want to add on, John, what I put in a recent Morgan report that went out last weekend, is I do not expect this big change to take place rapidly. It's going to take place as what I call a grinding market or a stealth market, which means that gold will go up and down. All markets go up and down, but gradually going up, silver as well. And they will go up slow enough for most people to not really be aware of them. And at the same time, the stock market will basically be doing the same thing. No more new highs, and it's a little lower, and it comes up and a little lower, and it comes up in like December or so, just as a metaphor. At the end of the year, people go, geez, I see silver's over 20. I thought it was at 16. What happened? And geez, the stock market's actually off this much of a percentage for the year. And I remember it was constantly making new highs. That's the kind of market I expect to take place over the next several months. Could I be wrong? You bet. But so far, so good. And I told my members that I was taking a pretty substantial position on this trade, and so far it's working for us.
You and I touch on this every once in a while, but people's opinions, I know my opinions and I try not to get a set and just stay in it. I mean, I'm prepared to break that set if I need to. Do you pay much attention to the cryptocurrencies?
I do, and I have. And in fact, I just came back from Vancouver Writers Conference, a metals writers conference, international. And my whole lecture was about Bitcoin, the blockchain, and gold and silver. And for a workshop, it was standing room only, which shows you the kind of amount of interest that is in the cryptocurrencies. And absolutely, I pay a great deal of attention to them.
Goddamn Bitcoin opened over 2,900 for a little while a day. Now it's down to 28 again. It's like, is this thing amazing or what?
Absolutely. I kind of could kick myself. I was probably one of the first ones to find out about it. I'll give credit where it's due. Robert Prechter, who I read because his thoughts on where the economy is going is different than mine, but I always like to read the other side to see if I'm missing something. And he mentioned it in one newsletter about this thing called Bitcoin. And I don't recall what it was priced at the time, but I think it was in the pennies. I think it was under $1. I'm not sure of that. I'd have to look. But I thought, geez, that's very interesting if someone is challenging, the current currency system. But I took a cursory look at it. I really didn't do much with it. But I've had several opportunities to get in earlier. One of the, let's say, more ardent fans of Bitcoin spent about an hour on the phone with me and talked to me about the benefits of doing so and on and on. And I thought, yeah, I got to do it. And I put all the notes I'd taken on my desk, and you know how it goes. I don't know how it goes for you, but for me, it got buried by other stuff, and I just basically put it off. So, but I think there is a very, very important thing going on here from a philosophical perspective, which means that there is, as Ron Paul said to Bernanke that one time with the silver, he says, why can't we have competing currencies? Why, you like paper money, you like fiat, I like silver. Why can't we compete with each other? And this is what's basically happening. And so since the Bitcoin start, you basically have, what, 750 cryptocurrencies currently.
750. Now, is this a casino deal where we're waiting to see if the other 748 do anything? Ethereum's doing okay, and there's a couple other ones out there. But really, Bitcoin's the big dog, right?
Yeah, I put it as an analogy to the dot-com bubble. I mean, in the dot-com bubble, you had a lot of Johnny-come-latelys that had a domain name and were selling for fantastic valuations for a very short period of time. So, dogfood.com or whatever these things were, they just went by the by. They had no business plan, they had no revenue, they had nothing. But there was a frenzy, a feeding frenzy going into these. But yet Amazon is still alive and kicking. So is Yahoo.com. So some of these are certainly leaders in the sector and continue to this day. I think the same analogy applies to the cryptocurrencies.
Okay, let's go weird now. Let's go into the weird lane. Are we thinking that maybe this? I read reports that come from, it's pretty easy to presume, and then when you see them, then you move from presume to assume that they are credible sources, but they're in direct conflict with each other. It doesn't really matter what it is, something that the FBI said over here or something that's going on with money over there, and you just see these contradictions all the time, which leaves you with hey, pay your money and take your chances, that old circus thing. Do we think that maybe, okay, now, let me toss some more against the wall. You got 1 gram, the gold-backed currency coming out of Dubai. You got the Chinese messing around with gold. We got a gold bank. I haven't heard a thing about it here recently. Maybe I'm just not looking hard enough, but generally by the time something pops up on the big scope, it's already been underway for a long time. You got to look at the little scopes to see what's up and coming, but before it gets to the big scope. So I'm just wondering, do you think that, look, I see things moving along a biblical track. I just do. I see this big push for world government like never before. Before it was just jihad this, and crusades would go and beat them back for a while, and then they'd come over and they wound up taking over Spain for 700 years, stuff like that. So, I mean, we've got just little lives here. Most of us don't make it 100 years, and a hell of a lot can happen in 50 to 100 years, but certainly more can happen over 700 to 1,000 years. So here we are stuck in this little spot in our time bubble. And I'm just wondering, with this big push to, like never before, for a global government, and you got people putting out articles about, 70-something% of people say global government, a global governing agency that can force countries to comply with climate change things and all this stuff. Well, I think it's a damn lie. Personally, I don't think 71% said they were okay with that at all, unless they were, doing their poll in some really deep blue part of the country. And then, hey, yeah, that's great. We want the government to take care of us. But I'm thinking that these digital currencies and the ability of governments to spy on everyone, I mean, it's as much of a full-time job to keep your computer secure as it is to go out and gather up enough, nuts, roots, and berries for a decent meal, back in the old days. And I'm just wondering if what's really happening here is that this fiat currency thing is going away, and it's going because it's too complex and it's too far down the road and it's too weird, it's too complicated. Wrong people are making money. Maybe it'll just be one or the other, either hard physical gold and silver and palladium, platinum, whatever you want, or digital, but the paper goes away. Do we think that that's really what's underfoot here? Or afoot, rather, not underfoot. We're underfoot. It's afoot, sorry.
Well, I think, John, Certainly, and you gave me a lot to consider, and I have already thought through on several of these. One is, it's pretty obvious that the governments of the world want to be able to get rid of cash, and obviously India has already started that. So if everyone gets put on a digital platform of some kind and cash is eliminated, they have complete control. Adding on to that, I was at the Anarchapulco conference. I was asked to speak. I spoke the first day. And what I spoke about was the possibility of seeing a merger. And I see this taking place, as you already mentioned, John, a gold-backed cryptocurrency. My last day in Canada on this writers' conference I mentioned, I met with some folks that I'd already been in dialogue with for years, actually, and they are coming out possibly with a silver-only backed cryptocurrency. To me, that's probably the best of both worlds, because there's really two theories on money. There's one that it's a legal fiction, and money can be anything I say it is. It can be salt, it can be umbrellas, it can be cattle, it can be whatever, or it can just be a piece of paper, or it can be just a digit on a computer. And the other theory is called specie, which is actually something that you hold in your hand that has value in and of itself, and that would be silver primarily, more so than gold, from the aspect that silver is useful. Silver can be used as a biocide. It can keep you from getting sick. Silver can be used in electronics, and on and on. I won't make that argument too strong. So those are the two theories of money. So if we were able to combine those in a manner that actually competed with what's going on now, and it was private, I think you'd have the best of both worlds. When I gave my speech on cryptocurrencies, the blockchain, and gold and silver, the main point I was making was the security issue. Now, I got some flack for that, but I based it not on me. A bit of research I've done. I haven't delved deeply into this. The last programming I did was in college in Fortran. I mean, I'm not a programmer, but I know that the security issue is valid because there was a recent security conference, not primarily on cryptocurrencies, but on the overall thrust of where the internet is going, where the future lies with the digital world. And to a man and woman at this conference, and these are people that write for, like, the editor of CNET and Wired and these type of individuals that are really at the top of the food chain. And they're talking about the Internet of Things, where everything is connected. And they gave some very startling revelations, and almost every one of them talked about security issues. One that I was very unaware of during this lecture, as a very interesting example, was if you bought a refrigerator from like 2010 onward, it's already got the hardware in it to mate with the software of the Internet of Things. So your refrigerator can spy on you. I mean, this is the facts. I mean, I won't mix my words, John. People say, well, it's great to have a refrigerator. If you're low on eggs or milk, it can order it for you over the internet and all that. Yeah, all that's true. But what's the downside? And the one that really is scary is one of the engineers sitting in an automobile with a test driver on a new car. And basically, he took control of the car from the driver and was able to control it totally. And the driver was unable to override what the guy in the right seat was doing. So these are the things, and these are security issues. Now, I understand the blockchain to the level that you can put your account down on a piece of paper and hold it outside of the system. And if there's an electrical problem, you still have it. And I get that. So if the people argue, well, there's really, security isn't an issue. No, it is an issue. So that's one thing. The other thing is, during the Anarchapulco, I hope I'm making sense here, John. I'm trying to stay consistent with the theme, but I am jumping around, but there's a lot on this plate. When I was at the Anarchapulco conference, I also, as well as talk, I also go there to learn. And there was a conference, let's say special event that was held that night for some invitees only. I was invited. It was very enlightening. And one of the real top guys in the blockchain mode that's been familiar with Bitcoin from the get-go talked about the fact that it is not anonymous, that every transaction that's ever taken place on the blockchain, the government or the NSA basically knows about it. So does this add to the global empire, or doesn't it? Well, I'll throw that as a rhetorical question because, they're really, to my knowledge right now, and I'm certainly not the best studied in the blockchain, there really aren't very many anonymous currencies out there. And so the privacy of cash, where I go and I buy whatever for cash and it's a private transaction, that still is available to us here in the U.S. and other places, of course. But that ability may be taken away if it goes totally digital, with some exceptions. I mean, the free market still exists, and there will be entities or creative people that will come up with ideas that will resonate with certain people, that they want to maintain their privacy and they want to be able to make transactions, let's say, that is outside the purview of somebody looking over their shoulder.
Wow. All right. Now, has the interest in gold and silver peaked now? I mean, everybody was getting ready for something, and then nothing happened. It's almost as though the little spookies out there are going, okay, they're getting all jacked up. Everybody do nothing for a while till they calm down. Then they calm down, and go, keep them calm for a while longer. Don't do anything. Okay, they're totally calm. Now do it. Then all of a sudden, we were ready a few minutes ago, but now we're not. Yeah, it's just crazy. So what's going on with gold and silver? It went up there to like $1,600 for a little while, a couple of months ago, something, and now it's down in the low 1200s. But silver's doing okay. But man, you got to haul around a lot of that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. Well, the answer is yes and no, and I'll explain.
Perfect.
I really believe that that the market at the retail level, which means the John B. Wells, the David Morgans, the average person out there, whatever that means, is saturated. There aren't many new buyers. The people that have bought it in silver at the 30s and gold at 1,600, they're sorry. A lot of them are sorry they bought it at those levels, and a lot of people have been holding on for 5 years, and they're like, they don't want to hear from people like me, and they've heard the same song and dance, and they're basically sick of the market. So we need new buyers on the retail side. We need new people, like primarily the millennials, that get the idea of why this is important. But they're really locked into the blockchain cryptocurrency. And, I'm free market. I mean, if that's what they decide, good for them. But on the institutional smart money side, John, gold is actually doing quite well. And I figured out a while back, silver used to lead gold most of the time. But in the last few years, gold's really led silver. And the reason for that is the smart money can move into gold. When you run a $1 billion hedge fund or a $2 billion hedge fund or that type of thing, you can move into gold. But to move that kind of money into the silver market would really disrupt the market, especially if you're dealing physically. I'm not talking the paper markets now. So gold is in a very important situation. The smart money is moving out of stocks and into gold, as I put out on that alert. And gold now is breaking a 6-year downtrend. So 6 years of misery, really, with up and downs, but the overall trend has been down. That downtrend is being tested as we speak. So that 6-year downtrend on safe haven status. Now, Chinese gold demand is set to surge about 50% this year to approximately 1,000 metric tons. That's a lot of gold. The Chinese demand for gold bars is on track to surge again about that 50% in this year. The geopolitical risk internationally is leading to more safe haven demand. These nation states aren't all one world. They're not all for the NWO. They're still nation state status, meaning they want to make sure that it's fair to them, and not everybody's jumping on board with this one world government NWO situation. Certainly that's the goal of the elites. I have no doubt about that. But that doesn't mean it can happen as easily as, let's say, the powers that be want it to happen. What do we have on the geopolitical side? We've got the UK elections, terrorism rising in the Middle East, and this is supporting, gold after this London attacks that just take place. Gold is actually 12.5% higher for the year and outperforming stocks. Yet if you stopped anybody on the street and asked them, which is doing better this year so far, most would answer stocks without even thinking about it. So it's sort of, as I said earlier, it's sort of the stealth bull market that most are unaware of. And I learned from the very beginning, John, when I started the website, and silver was on an inflation-adjusted basis, the lowest price it had ever been in recorded history. And that's not an understatement. That's a fact. Silver at $5 was lower in actual price than 22-cent silver in the 1930s because the value of the dollar had been decimated. And nobody was buying. No one. I mean, I was buying, Warren Buffett was buying, Bill Gates was buying, the billionaires were buying silver or silver exposure. Gates bought a great deal of Pan American Silver, a top tier company. George Soros, Apex Mines. So the billionaires, not the millionaires, the billionaires were buying silver when it was low, but the average person knew nothing about it. So people don't buy lows, they buy highs. And this is why there's this angst against, my group, let's say. I mean, a lot of us that are in this domain with, gold and silver, honest money, that type of thing, because of the 6-year bear market. But the truth be known, it's changing as we speak. And I think, again, once gold gets to a certain level, we'll see what I've already announced years ago. I said as silver was accelerating, and I called that one nearly perfectly. Once we broke through $19 level, in 2010, I said, look out, this thing is really going to go. And it went up to $48 the end of April 2011. And we caught that trade. By the way, I do trade and invest. I mean, most people that subscribe to the Morgan Report are long-term buy and hold investors, and that's what I do most of my work with. But then I got a lot of interest in, what do I do? And that's why I started the premium service where people can see that I hold a core investment that I never touch, but I also trade through the markets to enhance the returns. So back on track, we're going to see people coming into this market much more. And as I said before, John, you'll see more buying of silver above $30 an ounce than you'll ever see below $30 an ounce. And we'll see that happen again because people don't buy lows. They should be buying now. But there'll be some people that'll hear this interview and say, you know what? I think David's right. Maybe now's the time for me to get some exposure, or maybe average down, or whatever their thinking is. And the other part is, you don't have to be a gold-only person. I've never been a gold-only person. I mean, if you look at the 10 rules of silver investing I wrote over a decade ago, I said a 10% exposure is probably best for everybody. And if you're really an ideologue like I am, 20% is probably plenty. So it's not like I say put everything you own into the precious metals. I've never said that, but yet people get this idea that it's an all or nothing deal, and it's not. It's a hedge. It's a intuitive investment that has stood thousands of years, and there is no other money that has lasted as long as silver and gold have. It's a very simple argument.
Wow, amazing. All right. Now I know that you're not, and I certainly wouldn't ask you to. Actually, I think you've made some suggestions, but you're really not. You're information. You're an information service. You don't make recommendations, do you?
Right. No, it's an opinion-based letter. We do research. We research companies in the resource sector. We give you the opinion. We have the legal disclaimer that all the lawyers pounded out for us, and I tell them I'm buying this. And here's why. And if you want to follow along, so be it. But all the newsletters are that. They're all protected by freedom of speech, and we're allowed to give our opinion. So we suggest this or that or whatever. And what's interesting about it is, as a non-registered investment advisor, I can't give direct financial advice, but I certainly can give my opinion, and people value that opinion because a lot of us outperform what, let's say, their broker does. A lot of brokers are called brokers because they are broker at the end of a 5-year period or whatever.
Okay, I got one last question for you, David. Here it is. People keep using the name of the month, September, as some sort of a something's going to happen. Are you hearing September come up repeatedly, or not really?
No, I am, and I'm not afraid to say when I'm wrong. I mean, I forget what year it was, but I was asked to speak on True News and a couple of shows I've never been on before because there's a seasonality that's pretty strong. Seasonality means that there's a tendency for a market to do something in a certain time frame. For example, the summer months are usually bad for the metals. I don't think that's true this year, and it was not true last year. The end of the year used to be very good for the metals, and they haven't been for several years in a row now. there's a tendency for the crash in the stock market to take place September, October. So a year or two ago, it lined up with what my analysis was showing, and with the seasonality, I stuck my neck out again and said, I really think September looks like it could be, not would be, a time frame where you want to step aside of the stock market. I was wrong, but we're seeing that same thing again. And one of the interesting things, John, this time about the September, and there's a date even, September 23rd, that I've seen come up again and again and again, is that Angela Merkel, I think that the vote for Germany is the 24th of September, which is really interesting if you think about it. So I don't rule it out. I, again, at this point in time, see more of this stealth or grinding market, up for gold, down for the stock market. Will September be a big hiccup where there's massive moves? I certainly wouldn't rule it out, but I'm not going to stick my neck out as far as I did a year or two ago saying, absolutely, I never say absolutely, but where I feel that it's, more likely than less. Yeah, I think it's more likely than less likely. John, I think this year, just to add on to that, is the year where the sleepiest of Americans has awakened, December 1st, 2017, and says, you know what, I don't think things are ever going to be the same. Now, I know a lot of Trump euphoria. I know that a lot of things are changing. I know that he is a bold type. He's very hard to categorize. A lot of stuff that I see, I think, is beneficial overall. But it's not a political issue. Certainly there are politics, and certainly to some degree. But the debt problem is not political. It's a math problem. It cannot be solved no matter who is at the helm. And that's when I was asked about my thoughts on Trump and Clinton way back last year before the election. I said, to me, it was like changing the captain of the Titanic. Trump will come on board, the band will pick up and play more lively music, free drinks for everybody, steerage comes up to first class. Hey, times are great, and everybody's feeling really good. But we've already hit the iceberg and the ship's going down, even though the captain may make everybody feel better.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So I'm looking for that bombshell thing, but maybe it's not there yet.
I think it's a sequence of things, John. I don't know if there'll be that one thing. I mean, if you want to look back, what's the one thing that changed everything? It's probably 9/11. Yeah. I mean, from that point, look at what legal structures were ready, just waiting on the shelves to be implemented. I mean, how does that happen? Think about it. Come on, people. I mean, your viewers know this stuff because they're awake. But, I mean, you just don't legislate that kind of legislation automatically. You think everybody stayed home and worked 24 hours and all of a sudden came up with this legislation, this Patriot Act, overnight? Come on, people. Wake up.
Yeah, seriously. Look what they're going through over health care.
Yeah.
Let alone restructuring the entire republic's, frankly, constitutional safeguards, which have been largely removed. So, yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
All right. So we just stay on our toes. We'll just be good boxers and stay on our toes. Keep moving.
Well, I think there's one thing, and I've thought about this recently, and it's certainly, I like it to be profound. I admit that. But, there's nothing more powerful than the truth, really. And there's, if there's one shortage of anything on the planet, it's that. It's truth. Think about if the mainstream media put out truth. I mean, who's putting out fake news? Well, we all know who's putting out fake news. So if we were able to get honesty, integrity, and truth back into the system at large, things could change drastically because the truth is absolutely very powerful. The problem is, and this is philosophical, it's my strong belief that human nature is constructed or has been destructed perhaps to where your feelings, your emotions, or your beliefs are greater than the truth. We have many out there in the public at large, and I'm not talking U.S. only, I'm talking globally, that their belief system is so strong, even though it's contra to the absolute truth, their beliefs are something they'll hold on to with the ship going down all the way. back to the analogy, it's like I believe that Trump's going to solve everything for me. The big daddy syndrome, I call it, where someone's responsible for me. I can't be an adult. Why should I be responsible for myself? And that the ship's going down, but they don't even see it because they believe so strongly. When the truth is, no, we hit the iceberg, the cavalry is not coming to the rescue, and you better get your own house in order. That's what the American system was about, rugged individualism. It wasn't about daddy taking care of you. And that right, the right to succeed, is also the right to fail. And the market determines the successes from the failures. And if you fail, guess what? Think up something better and do it again, or tweak what you did and make it better, and make it where it is beneficial to you and others. So, there's a lot about this whole policy change that's taken place over years and years with this draconian legal system that's been, I guess I could say, bastardized on your show, that has taken a very simple document with very simple ideals that were put down and so strongly reinforced with the Bill of Rights, and yet no one even knows what you're talking about if you talk to anybody under 30, because they don't teach it anymore. I mean, the law of the land supersedes any of these codes or treaties or all this stuff, but no one stands up. I mean, there's a few. You've got Judicial Watch, you've got some out there that are really fighting the good fight, but these are called extremists now. No, they're not extremists. They're truth tellers. Remember, there's nothing more powerful than the truth. End of rant.
That's beautiful, man. Well, look, have a great week, and let's catch up again soon, even if it's just for 10 minutes, okay?
Great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for being here. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. We're going to have ourselves a beautiful musical interlude here in a minute. And then we're going to talk with Robert Morningstar. He's an interesting cat. Stuff like, I personally find this to be pretty interesting. Missing frames from the Zapruder film and so forth, stuff like that. It's always got my attention how steady Abrams Zapruder was able to hold that camera while gunfire is occurring all around and the President of the United States is being hit in the head. Man, people say, no, he wasn't using a tripod. I don't think they'd invented the Steadicam in those days. No. So, and in any case, even if they had, that would have been a little bit conspicuous. But people get tired of hearing about 9/11. People get tired about hearing John F. Kennedy stuff. But you know what? There's some people who are still alive who know all about it. And I think it's just our duty to stay on it. In the midst of Antifa this and Black Lives Matter and we want unchecked immigration and this bunch over here wants to blow us up and all that. I think we should remember always and just continue to follow up on these things that have happened to us over the course of our lives. It's before some people's time out there. It really is. There's some of the younger sets, people in their teens and early 20s that are members of Caravan to Midnight. And we, all of us, salute you specifically for being interested to find out. You know something's wrong. And we all know something's wrong. And something will always be wrong. The question is, how big is the thing that's wrong? And the John F. Kennedy assassination was the event that led to where we are today. Now you see the FBI and the CIA are working together. CIA used to be outside the borders of the country. FBI was inside and not to go outside. But now it's all smeared over. And with the last president, looks to me like the intelligence services and the executive branch of government sort of melded together, creating their very own KGB. Well, we need to fix that. The way you fix it is to expose the existence of this monstrous apparatus to as many people who will listen. Then you'll see things start to change. Okay? All right, so if you're a member of Caravan to Midnight, thank you very much for making this program possible. If you're not a member of Caravan to Midnight, please keep in mind that the members of Caravan to Midnight do make this program possible. And we would be delighted if you would join us. Don't forget, Joseph Meyer's newsletter I don't think I was very clear about this yesterday, but Joseph Meyer's newsletter is $259 per year. But people are going, wow, that's a lot. So that's what? That's about $65 per newsletter, because each one comes out in a quarter. You know, get a March, get a June, and a January, a March, a June, and a September. So the deal that we have running now with Joseph, we've gotten together, and you will get the March newsletter, which is the most recent one. You'll get the June newsletter that's coming out, and you'll get the September newsletter that, well, it's not September yet, so obviously that'll be coming out toward the end of the year. And a year to Caravan to Midnight. So that's $259 plus $60, and you get the whole thing for $80. So if anybody hasn't joined, who was waiting for a promotion or a deal, there it is. If you're interested in money, if you want to know about what the markets are doing, if you want in-depth stuff, that's what he does, day and night. He writes this newsletter, analyzes stuff, puts it in a newsletter form, and sends it out. And he's a straight-up guy. And we haven't done a deal like that with anybody else before, but we may do it again. It just depends on what they have to bring to your party. So take advantage of that, or if you know somebody who might be interested in such a situation, tell them about it. And may I just say, it doesn't hurt a thing to subscribe to the channel and the YouTube channel here, and then follow us on Twitter and Facebook. We can send you alerts if something important happens on Facebook. And it's just kind of fun to keep things rolling, just keep things stirred up. And we do. With your help, we will continue to do so. So, enough said.